Assalamualaikum.
Why?
Welcome to
Why?
Night. We have today with us Sami Yabroudi. Welcome, Seven.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Would love to learn more about you. So, if you can please share about your journey, how you started, and where you are today.
Hey, sure. So, I guess I was fortunate enough to be at a couple startups that grew really fast, and I was fortunate enough to be there from an early time and scale a few departments at each of them. And then, for a number of reasons, I took some time off, and then I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Am I going to go do this again, or am I going to try something different? I'm going to try to like really be on my own this time. And I think, the positive spin on it is that I have a lot of ideas and things I want to accomplish. And I think the only way to really get there is to just kind of start doing it and build stuff on your own and build your own things where you can kind of be a little bit more a master of your own destiny. I think the stick approach was I also sort of didn't really want to kind of be stuck in another chaotic interpersonal political situations and things, and so I really wanted to see, that there was a carrot and stick. There were carrot and stick sides of this as well.
All right. So, share with us what does specifically Flatiron Data does.
Sure. So, Flatiron Data. So I'm working on a number of projects, but the one that takes the most time right now is Flatiron Data. We provide consulting and contracting services to tech companies. That is, companies that are generating their own information and need to do stuff with it. Essentially, that's the simplest way of putting it. The genesis of it is related to what I said earlier, where I was fortunate enough to start and scale data and data related departments at a few companies, and so that resume and experience is parlayed with clients where they're looking for us to help them do the same. Data can be often like a more like mysterious part of things to certain company leadership and organizations and things, and so we kind of take on the whole burden of it. The preferred business model seems to be embedded data teams as a service. So we provide an entire team that kind of jumps into the company as if we were a department within the company, and then we work with the company to get them where they need to go. And so at like a really basic level, like I describe it as Maslow's hierarchy of data. And so the basics are like, are you collecting the raw information that you need in a way that makes sense and in a way that is usable? And then we start to build up into simple reporting, right? That's kind of just table stakes. And then we turn things into frameworks and business health understanding, and teaching the company how to use their information and make sure they're leveraging it in the best way possible. We also do a fair amount of intelligence, sort of machine intelligence. So sometimes it's called machine learning, sometimes it's called AI. So that kind of comes once we stabilize and build out the foundations for the company in terms of analytics and infrastructure. Then we'll work with them as well on machine intelligence and AI. Though I think what's amusing is that we spend a lot of time telling clients that they should actually their time and money would be better spent solidifying their foundations versus trying to shoot in the dark on some AI items. And so we're pretty judicious with how we advise clients to do that stuff.
All right. What size companies do you usually work with?
Right now, our bread and butter has been U.S. and Western European funded startups. We could say between 50 and 500 is the employee count. That's actually the easiest way to think about it. And that's been the bread and butter. Our favorite type of client is the one that's tried to do it themselves and it hasn't worked out. And so they're very appreciative of when we come in, like fix things pretty fast and then start to really get them where they need to go. We are looking to branch out in a variety of directions. So enterprise in places where the large enterprise client is looking to move much faster than they traditionally have. I think we've been poking at a few ways of expanding geographically, and so, for example, the MENA region is one that we're trying to figure out how to set up a sales pipeline for, and so we're in the middle of building and launching what I call our beautiful new website very soon, but we target, when we talk to people, we target them in a few different ways. One is by company size. So a smaller company will have a different value proposition than a larger company, just generally. And then we also target by department. And so we try to illustrate for each main type of a company department or a department leader, like where could we start with them, and then where could we bring them.
Okay. Do you have a case study that you can share with us in terms of where you found your customer and how you helped them get to the level that they needed to be at?
Sure. I say I don't know. I'm going to avoid giving
sure, without naming
company names on a live stream.
Yes.
My initial customers were all through various like strange personal network happenstances, and I'd say all of them were in rough shape when we took over. So I'd say like one is a hospitality, one is like a online hospitality company, and they just have, I mean, we've cleaned up things quite a lot, but they just had really basic challenges with like collecting even like transactional information or analytics around how their customers were using their various sites, and then pulling that in. And then of course, like it's a relatively large company, and they're doing quite a lot. And so like we just had, like, first we had to clean things up, although like now we're trying to help them with all sorts of more complex ideas like inventory frameworks, like personalized marketing, intelligence around pricing, so like dynamic pricing. Basically every department that you could think of in an e-commerce company has big goals, and at this point, like for a company that size where things are D2C, like everything involves collecting information and then leveraging it in some form. I think fun one involves medical manufacturing. So in case where like every item manufactured is custom to the patient, and the operations for that are extremely complex, and so helping them first set up the right reporting and setting up the right reporting and metrics and incentives to get like the human groups on the ground to perform at their best possible, as well as like incrementally institute changes in the like processes and things to, like, with operations, you always want to do better, faster, cheaper, and so trying to help push them along those lines. And then over time, adding in like real amounts of computer vision intelligence to automate certain tasks that are quite expensive and require people. And so you can think of like designing things in 3D CAD, evaluating in QC. So it got quite complex. It started out in a more sort of standard analytics place, but then got quite complex and fancy later on.
Okay, so when you are providing services to your clients, are they more project-based or are they ongoing?
For the most part, right now we do ongoing engagements. That's for where we are right now. That's like a easier just from a logistical standpoint, and all of our clients so far have like really needed continuous help. It's not like the need when people are looking to bring in someone from the outside, so far it's mostly been long term. When I was on the other side of this, and I was like the client that engaged sort of outside agencies. The part-time stuff is for the like more complex AI or ML where it's expensive and you just want to like put in like a certain amount of development and then call it a day. But for the other services that we provide, generally the need is quite continuous, and so our engagements so far have generally been continuous.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that you are focused more on companies that are like 50 to 500 employees or in tech industry. Is there anything else that you focus on? Any other industry?
I mean, so right, tech could mean so many things. So, for example, one of our niches, so to speak, is health tech. We just have a lot of experience in that, and so we have clients for that. We have a bunch of clients for that, and they also kind of tend to find us. But basically, it's any company where they're creating and storing a lot of information, and so typically that's like any company with its own software platform. And so we do a lot of health tech. We do hospitality, consumer services, subscription services. We're talking to, I mean, like we get some very interesting business models, like very operationally heavy business models. So if your company is like very complicated operations and you're trying to figure out, like you're trying to get a sense of what's going on and then figure out how to like iterate on it, we have a couple of clients we're talking to there. So it really ranges in terms of industry or called department of emphasis. And I think sometimes the parallels, sometimes things that are farther apart might have more in common than you think, and things that seem closer together might be farther apart.
Okay, all right. How's your journey so far, entrepreneurial journey?
There's been a lot of there's been a lot of there's been a lot to learn. I definitely, having been more involved, especially in the last full-time job where I worked for someone else, like having been quite involved in the leadership activities of the company and stuff, sort of felt myself more prepared than I actually was for the role. Or let me clarify, it's a lot of it comes down to perception. I think most of the journey has been about building confidences in certain things, as well as like a general sense of confidence, and then also learning to be really frank with myself about my shortcomings and learning how to compensate for those as well. And so I'd say the growth has been mostly on a personal level, in sort of over, perhaps like you could say, overcoming the barriers that I put in my own way, if maybe that's a way to say that.
All right. So, what message would you give to fellow entrepreneurs who are starting or running a company right now, a small company?
I'd say, well, I think each person is quite different. One of the lessons that I think one of the things that I think more focused on more recently, and I'm beginning to make headway is, and you and I have discussed this, is that I have a tendency towards self-isolation, particularly when there are problems, and I'll just like lock myself away and say I'm going to fix this by myself. And in fact, that's usually the least helpful. That's usually the least helpful way to approach it. And so for people who have the same problem as me, I would say, make sure force yourself to kind of talk to peer groups and things such as what AMCOB is providing. And so that would be a lesson for someone with this particular challenge, just like me. And I think more generally, I'd just say, be honest with yourself about who you are and what you need to do to kind of make up for it. If there's definitely a more positive way to say that, but that's how I think about it.
All right. And last question about your future plans, where your company is right now, and where do you foresee it to be end of 2025?
We're hopefully entering a bit of a growth phase now, where we're turning on some various various experiments in terms of lead generation and contract signing processes and things like that. And so we're just looking to add, when this kind of gets in full swing, we're looking to add a couple new continuous clients a month for the next however long, and then we'll see if we can scale up beyond that. Agency scaling is unfortunately, I've seen a lot of examples of people trying to grow too fast and then have everything fall apart because the quality went down, and so I never want to get there. So what we're looking to do is grow as fast as we can without overdoing it.
Okay, sounds good. Looking forward to seeing your growth and your company's growth in the next year or so. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of AMCOB and being a valued member.
Thank you for having me and for taking the time to interview me.
Of course, of course. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Bye-bye.